Cool. Wonderful humans and wonderful people. How are we all? Good. Did we survive lockdown?
No, sir.
No, sir.
I lost something very dear to me.
What?
My sport.
Your sport. It has been horrible without sport. I mean, I live at school, and the school is not right at the moment because it's so quiet. So, yeah. How did lockdown work, though?
It was okay.
Oh, we do have an okay. It's fine or it's and that's what I've been seeing. It's either awesome and you really cope well, or you really do need school. You need a me going, where's this? Where's that? Well, you fine, but where's that? You haven't had fun. No, not at all. Teachers' children are the worst hurt. Moms continually. Mr. Shear, the same thing. You fine?
Yes.
Okay, this is good. Right. Anyway, so what I want to do today is I just want to start going over with 8UA, 8A, the work that I would have done with you in lockdown. Okay, I just want to spend today and maybe the next lesson just going over the stuff we should have grasped in lockdown. Because if we haven't got it, there's going to be a little bit of drama later on come the final exams at the end of the year. Okay, so picture Earth. The whole planet has exactly the same climate. Hey? The whole planet looks identical, not. What's different? The equator is covered in snow and the poles are covered in sand. Oh, hang on, it's the other way around. Hey? Okay, and we've got places that are rainforests, and we've got other places that are mountainous, and we've got other places that are covered in tumbleweeds, and other places that are covered in big forests. So the planet is different from a climatic perspective. Why? What causes the climate to change? What specific elements are we interested in? Temperature. Okay, so it's the temperature. And because we have different temperatures over the planet, we end up with different climates because the temperature impacts so much. Right. What causes the temperature on Earth to be different? So let's start off revising the 5 things that are going to impact temperature. Right, the first one is called latitude. Right, so here is Earth. What surrounds Earth? The air, the atmosphere. Right, now what is the atmosphere? It's a layer of gas surrounding Earth. It's the air that we breathe. But what else is found in the atmosphere? Things like the ozone. Awesome, I like it. Right, what does the ozone layer do, Tristan?
It stops harmful rays of the sun.
Okay, so it blocks harmful ultraviolet radiation. Okay, it is not the only layer in the atmosphere that protects us from the harmful sun rays. We've got the thermosphere, we've got the ionosphere, and we've got the ozone. So all of these things inside the atmosphere protect us from harmful radiation from the sun. Now, radiation from the sun we're going to call insolation. Inbound solar radiation. Okay? Right, so here is our sunbeam, our insolation. And it strikes the equator. We've got exactly the same amount of sunbeam or insolation striking near the North Pole. What do you notice is different?
The area that is hitting is smaller.
Okay, it's more spread out at the poles. That beam of light is focused. It's like a torch pointing directly at the board or at that point. It's going to be bright. Hold the torch at an angle and that light spreads over a bigger area. So the same size sunbeam, the same amount of insolation is received at the equator and at the poles. But because the Earth is curved, that beam of light has to heat up a much, much bigger area. Ergo, it's colder here than it is there. Got it? Simple. Right. Now I said to you, the atmosphere also depleted energy. It protects us from harmful rays. It makes the insulation weaker. So this sunbeam is coming into Earth, and it's going straight directly through the atmosphere. What's happening at the poles? Because it's coming into the atmosphere at an angle. So not only is it having to heat up a bigger area, but it's also being depleted by all of those other layers in the atmosphere. So the intensity of the insulation at the poles is much weaker than it is at the equator. The equator is hot, and as you move away from the equator towards the poles, what happens? It gets colder and colder. So that's the first effect of temperature latitude. Any questions on this? No. Got it? Happy? Awesome. Right, isn't it quite nice in this classroom? It's an improvement on mine, hey?
No, I actually like it.
I like my classroom from a look, from a temperature perspective.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, it's an improvement from Mr. Kenny's classroom too, from a temperature perspective, hey? Right, why? Right, so we've got blinds here now, but if I was to open this blind, what's going to pour in through here? Sunlight. What's pouring in through that window? Nothing. Right, so if you're in my classroom or Mr. Kenyon's classroom normally, what are our main windows looking at? No. The opposite side of the sun. Right, so if you go outside now and you look, at lunchtime, and you look at the sun, you will see that the sun is positioned ever so slightly north of where we are. Right, the sun is overhead the equator. Are we on the equator? No, we are south of the equator. So the sun is towards the north. So, if here was the sun, and let's just say we have got a hill over here, and this is in the southern hemisphere, so that way is north and that way is south. The sun's rays, the insolation, is hitting the northern slope. But what is happening on the southern slope?
Green shade.
Okay, we've got a shadow zone. So in the southern hemisphere, slopes that point towards the north are going to get a lot of sunlight. Slopes that point towards the south are going to often experience shadow. And it's the same when we look at buildings. The south-facing classrooms, the science labs, the geography classrooms, the technology and the drawing rooms, all face south. Do they ever get sunlight? No. Maybe very late in the afternoon, but they get very little sunlight. And as a result, they are substantially cooler. Okay, the north-facing slopes, much warmer. Think of the way your house is built. Do you think that all the garages and the bathrooms and things like that are all on one side of the house, and then your lounge and your bedrooms and that are all on the other side of the house? Why do architects build a house like that? Does your garage and your bathroom need to be warm, or would you prefer to have warmer lounges and warmer bedrooms? So when they design houses, they usually put the living areas towards the north in the southern hemisphere. Right, who's been to Hartbeespoort Dam? And the Magaliesberg? Okay, some of them. When you look at the Magaliesberg, you'll see it is a ridge, a mountain, but it's got a steep slope and it's got a gentle slope. And the gentle slope points towards the north, and the steep slope points towards the south. And then the dam is over here. So this is where the dam is. If any of you notice the vegetation, the trees and the bushes and that on this side, and compared it to the bushes on that side. Who's been to Bloodworth? Sun City.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so when you drive into Sun City, you've gone through the tunnel and you're that side of the mountain. What is the ground? What does the landscape look like? It's all very dry and it's covered in grass and maybe the odd thorn tree. But on this side of the Magaliesberg, you've got big trees and big bushes. Why?
Because they're getting more sunlight than the others, which can cause more vegetation.
Okay, so this side is getting lots of sunlight. So what's happening to the ground? It's getting dry. That side is in the shadow zone. Okay, it's still getting light. It's not that it's dark. But the ground remains moist and wet. And if you've got moisture in the ground, you can obviously support lots of vegetation. So do we have two different climatic zones there? Okay, here we've got nice dense thick forests and things. This side we're in savanna and grassland. So it is the aspect of slope. Same concept here, the aspect of slope that is going to impact the climate and the vegetation on Earth. So we've looked at latitude now, and we've looked at aspect. Right. Picture, again, a really, really, really big mountain. Let's call it Mount Everest. Describe the top. It's pointy and it's snowy. It's covered in ice. Right. Come down the mountain in your head. Come down 4, 5, 6 kilometers. And you start getting down into the valleys. What's in the valleys? Grass. Okay. Why is there such a difference between the top and the bottom?
Altitude.
Altitude. Okay, so that's the third effect. Altitude. The higher up you go, the colder it gets. Why?
Because the air becomes thinner up there.
Okay, the air becomes thinner, the blanket becomes thinner, it's not as dense. True, absolutely. What else? What heats up the air? The ground. What heats up the ground? The sun. Cool. So think of it as a heater. Right, so there's a fan in here, there is no heater. Okay, same concept as the fan. What powers the fan? The electricity. What's the electricity? It's the sun. The ground would be the fan or the heater. So if I'm standing and let's pretend this is a heater, and I'm standing close to it, what am I going to feel? Heat. As I move away from the heater, what do we start to feel? It gets colder. So it's the same thing. The sun heats up the ground. The ground is now warm. The air touching the ground gets warm. What does warm air do?
It rises.
It rises. Okay, and as it rises, what's it going to do? It's going to get cooler because it's moving away from the heat source. Okay, so the higher up you go, the colder it gets. Got it? Awesome. Right, I'm going to draw the southern hemisphere very quickly. South America, Africa, Australia. Use your imagination.
Ocean currents.
What do you notice?
Ocean currents.
Okay, so they're the ocean currents, but what do you notice? Okay, so they all circulate. How do they circulate? In a circle. Which way is the circle going? Okay, so in the southern hemisphere, all ocean currents move anti-clockwise. Remember, the northern hemisphere is back to front, so it would all go clockwise. But it's the same thing. Okay? What do you notice about the cold and the warm? It's all on the same side of the oceans, isn't it? Okay, so your eastern oceans, the eastern side of the Indian Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Pacific Ocean, are cold. You've got the cold Humboldt current. You've got the cold Benguela current. And you've got the cold WAC, the WAC. Okay? And then you've got the warm. Come on, when you watch Nemo, what's this current's name? The EAC. What does that mean? The East Australian current. You've got the warm Mozambique and Agares current. And then you've got the warm Brazilian current. Okay. And then obviously the same thing's happening in the north. Right, now, why is it warm? Why are they cold? Well, it's obvious. The water swirls around in the Indian Ocean, swirls around in the Atlantic Ocean, swirls around in the Pacific Ocean. This water is close to where?
Land.
No. What line is, yeah, the equator. Is the equator warm or cold?
It's warm.
It's warm. So if the water's coming from somewhere warm, what's the water going to be? Warm. And as it moves down, what happens to it?
It becomes cold.
It gets cold. What do we have down here?
Antarctica.
Okay, Antarctica. Right, warm or cold?
Cold.
Cold. So the water's coming from somewhere cold, so the water's going to be cold. And as it moves up, what's it bringing? Cold water with it. And as it moves towards the north, what's happening to it? It's going to heat up. So basically, we're taking the hot down to the cold, we're taking the cold back up to the hot in the oceans. Right. Now, what influenced the temperature of the air? What heated the air up, in other words?
The sun.
No.
The water.
We've just done it.
Oh, no.
The sun heated up
Land.
the ground. The ground heated up the air. So would you think an ocean would also influence the temperature of the air? Okay, because it's also the surface of the earth. So air is going to adopt the properties of the surface over which it blows. Remember I typed that in, I chatted to those people that were on the online. Air adopts the properties of the surface over which it blows. In other words, if the ground is cold, what's the air going to be? If the ground is hot, what's the air going to be? It's going to be hot. Cool. Right. Now, oceans add another concept, because what is an ocean?
It's a body of water.
It's a body of water. Right. What does hot water do, Bernard?
It creates steam and then rises.
Okay, I like where you went with it. It creates steam. In other words, the water evaporates. And that evaporated moisture in the air is going to create humidity. That air is going to rise because it's warm and it's humid. And as it rises, it cools down. And what happens to the humidity? It turns into a cloud. Right, and then it can rain. If the water is cold, are we getting evaporation? Very little. Are we going to get clouds? No. Okay, or very little. And as a result, no rain. So when we look at South Africa now, or Southern Africa now, who's been to Namibia? Put up a hand. Who's been to Mozambique? Okay, who's been to the Western Cape and into the Karoo? Cool. Who's been to KwaZulu-Natal, Durban? Okay, more of you. Right. Those of you that have been to both sides of the country, describe the vegetation for me. So if we're in Namibia or in the Karoo now, what are we going to see on the ground?
We're going to see very dry land, which is very...
Dry land. Deserts. Okay. When we think of Mozambique and northern KwaZulu-Natal, what are we seeing?
Tropical trees.
Don't use the word tropical, it's horrible.
Vegetation.
Right, you're seeing vegetation, you're seeing trees, you're seeing nice green grass. Okay? Yes, I know you say that's tropical, but I want us to get, I'll get there. Right, so if we look at Southern Africa now, we will see that this side of Southern Africa is dry. And this side of Southern Africa is got thick vegetation. It's far more moist. And it's because of the ocean currents. So because this ocean is warm, the air rises with moisture. We've got clouds Those clouds blow over the land, we get rain. This side, the ocean is cold. There are no clouds. There is no rain. It's deserts and very, very arid. Why is it not necessarily cold? Because surely if the water is cold, the wind is cold.
This one is there.
Okay, are there clouds?
No, there is no.
So there's lots of sun during the day. So what happens to the temperature in a desert or a dry area during the day? Because there's no clouds. It's gonna get really, really hot because lots of sun. But what happens at night? What does the hot air do?
Because there's no sun to heat up the land anymore.
Correct. Okay, the hot air is just going to rise. Got it. Cool. Awesome. Right, the last thing that influences the climate and temperature is something known as continentality. Right, please put yourself in here. What's the maximum and the minimum temperature, please, for where we are today? If I'm not mistaken, I think it was 18 and 2. Let's just double check. Anyone got their app open? Okay.
$19 is the maximum.
Yep. And the minimum?
5.
5. Right. Tristan, please, or Dylan, tell me what Durban is.
It's a 60.
Yeah, what's its maximum and minimum? I think it was 22.15 yesterday.
I'm on the dodge.
Never mind. We'll just use yesterday's if you've got no doubt. Okay, so yesterday when we looked it was 22 degrees and it was 15 degrees.
I thought
Sorry?
the minimum is 12.
Today is 12. Okay. A little bit colder today. Cool. Right. Mathematical concept of range. Range is the difference between the highest and the lowest. Right, so what is the range between 19 and 5 degrees?
4.
Okay, so we've got a difference of 14 degrees, so the range is 14 degrees. Right, here we've got a difference of 10 degrees. Right, the maximums are quite close. Well, there's 3 degrees difference. The minimums, however, are very different between Durban and Johannesburg or Durban and Midrand. Okay, there's a much bigger range here than there is here. And this is something you will notice throughout the planet. Places near large bodies of water, really big lakes, and the oceans have small temperature ranges. Places far away from oceans, continentally located places like Johannesburg, have a much bigger temperature range. Why? What does the water do? So, think of the ocean as a very, very big battery. And I'm going to tell you why it's a big battery now. If you were to jump into the sea on a nice sunny day with a scuba tank, and you started to go down, and you went down 20 meters and looked up, can you see sunlight? Yes. You go down 40 meters and look up. Can you see sunlight? Yes. Sunlight stops at about 53 or 54 meters into the ocean. Okay? If I was to dig a hole, put you in the hole, and cover you with a couple of centimeters of sand or soil, would you be able to see sunlight? No. So, when the sun hits the land, it is only the very, very top layer of the land that is going to get warm. But what is it doing to the ocean? What is it doing to a big lake or a swimming pool or something? It's penetrating deep in. So, what does the water do? It absorbs this energy. What does the land do? It also absorbs the energy. Right, barefoot December, running on a hot road or on a beach. It's like you can't stand still. Why? Your feet are burning. Right. If you're at the beach, what do? You run to the sea. But surely the land and the sea are getting the same sunlight, so they should be the same temperature. But they're not. Why?
Because the sunlight is going much deeper into.
There's so much more sea that needs to be heated up than land. So the land takes a short amount of time to get hot. The sea takes a long time to warm up. Right, night comes. What's the land going to do?
It's going to cool down.
It's going to cool down. How much of it absorbed energy? It was only the top layer. So think of it as a small vacuum. It runs out of energy quite quickly. The ocean, which has got 40, 50 meters worth of sunlight, stores huge amounts of energy. So it can release energy over a long period. So the difference between the hottest and the coldest temperature in the ocean, the difference between its maximum and minimum, if you were to put a thermometer, would probably only be 1 or 2 degrees difference between day and night temperature, where we know that's not the case on the land. So if air adopts the properties of the surface over which it blows, if the air is coming off an ocean which has a stable temperature, coastal places are going to have a stable temperature. Look at the range in Durban. It's much smaller than it is in mid-range. Why? Because we are inland, and that temperature there is stabilized by the ocean. So places near the ocean have stable temperatures, places inland have fluctuating temperatures. Right, so what we're going to do when I see you again later on in the week, we're going to then look at global climates, and then we can look at the equatorial climates, the rainforest, the tropical climates, the subtropical, the savanna, the tundra, etc. And we will see how all of these 5 concepts give us the various biomes or the climate zones on the planet. Questions? All happy? Awesome. Right, there's about a minute left of this lesson, so I'm not going to stop the next section. Yes, question. Are you allowed to go to the bathroom?
I don't get it all day.
No, please go to the bathroom. Just be very careful when you go to the bathroom. Actually wash your hands and sterilize everything. But yeah, no, if you gotta go, you've gotta go.
I don't get it.
Shame. You'll be dancing by the end of the day. Look, the less places you go, the safer you are.
Geography.
So, that's not geography.
No, like geography class. Places.
Yeah, I know. But the less people you interact with, the safer you are, which is why you're all stuck in one classroom and you're not moving around. we try and limit the amount of people we see, because if we see less people, we obviously come into contact with less children. Right, have a fun day, everybody.
Thank you, sir. You had to finish this one,
Sorry?
no? Six.
No.
I've got red teeth now, you guys are taking over.
You need to be the first.
Ms. Bird,
We met in across from the
coming across the hall now.
So I want to.
Good
Morning. Are you all back?
No.
Not.
No, someone.
What happened here now? What am I supposed to do?
Don't give me.
Hmm? You want to close the door? Are you cold? Did you write text now?
No.
Oh. Is it live? What message you have now?
It was live, but I don't know for myself.
Were you tired yesterday when you got home? Technology. I got my pictures. I want to show you the pictures.
And they.
Okay, it is on.
I think Yasmin is also finishing that thing.
Huh?
I think Yasmin is finishing that thing. She cannot do that.
Is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think it's off. I need to switch it on. Am I right with me? I was right. It was off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did all of you get the booklet yesterday?
Yes,
So it's the same guys. It's the same 8A than yesterday. So this board is so dirty now. We've got to clean it. Okay, then I have to invite people.
And everyone's here.
Is everyone here?
Yeah,
Whoa,
I think so.
Yeah, everyone is there.
oh, who's this thing?
Okay.
This is how it
Oh, Simon. Oh, let me see. I think if we do it once, it's gonna be fine. Doing that. Do you think they see it now?
Yeah, we can.
Can you see it as well? Are you on it?
It's kind of blurry.
Is it blurry?
Yeah, I'm going to take the board and with the.
Which means question.
Okay. Okay, we'll just show you mine. So this is my customers. Hello, sir. Oh.
What names, ma'am?
So I have this beautiful business plan, but I need to test it. And then I adopted them from the SPCA.
Ma'am, what are the names?
Okay, so this one is Benji.
Is
He's quite, they're two males, so this one is the dominant one. And this is Max. So Max stands for me speak like this all the time. He wants some trees. Yeah. So he's a bit tall, he's a bit smaller than this one. So they're still a bit scared and stuff because we only got them last Tuesday.
Now, how old
Ma'am,
are
I also got.
So there's three. Oh, is it? It's good to support them. So they're about 3-4 years old, we think. That's what it says. So they're already house trained, they know where to sleep, they sleep through the night. So they're very cute like that. So I'm just testing my business on them. They're cute, answer.
So, you, let's see everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so they can see me, the live one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just want to make sure that.
So I've signed in my account, I'll just sign out when I'm done.
And you did recording it.
Oh.
Okay, that's good, then I can see you. Oh, do I need to record it?
Yeah, no, it is recording.
Oh, it is recording, okay. So is this gonna be easier than the YouTube one? Is this gonna be easier than the YouTube one? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this seems a lot easier.
Okay, so,
Yes, I have the screen here, so it is easier
Okay.
to
Thank
see.
you.
Shouldn't interfere with anybody.
thank you. Good,
Yeah, right now, I think it's just on the extended mode. So
Okay.
all you have to do is we'll just adjust it to duplicate.
okay, perfect, I'll do that, yeah. Okay. This is where they sleep at night. So this is after your bathroom. It's very great. So it's good to go and do a good thing. Hello, you're at home. We miss you. Can you see us?
Yeah.
Okay, so remember yesterday I showed you that if you're done, so we're going to carry on with lesson 3 today. So if you're done with it, so some of you work a bit faster than others, I've created this very good, cool new site for you that I will update regularly. And then it's just to go read some interesting things and some good stories. So the first site is all about what's happening, like look at what Woolies is doing, they're donating a lot of products. Good marketing as well for Woolies, eh? Now everybody thinks, oh, they're so kind. And then our big ExCom, what's happening there. Big, so your mom and dad will talk about this. Tomorrow, tonight, you need to remind them to fill up. Tomorrow the petrol price is going to go up almost with 170 a litre. Fill up, people, fill up.
Creatures become experienced.
And then is that frustration for you guys are? How to tell if someone is new to your Instagram?
Oh.
That's just so fun. And then you'll see here's some nice articles. This is to inspire you to learn from others. And there's such nice businesses. And you'll see it's quite small businesses, like ice cream businesses, and it's people that started small, like me with my doggy biscuits. You start small and then from that you grow and grow and grow. Yes, hello?
Ma'am, did you make this website yourself?
Easy, you guys can make it as well. We can make it for your businesses. So here's some nice entrepreneur stories. Oh, look at this one I put in. Making ice cream from insect milk.
Never.
It's a good thing, guys.
I'm good,
It's a
man.
good thing.
I'm
Last year
good.
my business was insect muffins. I made muffins with Newlands.
What
This
is
year I
that?
thought I'll do doggy biscuits.
I think you made the right decision.
Times are changing. And then if you want to learn about money, I put some money stuff on here for you. You've got, you guys all, I'm sure, have a little bit of money. Where can you invest and stuff? It's very good to know. And then just marketing, global warming, etc. So it just carries on. So you can find your interest and then go read about that, and I'll update it regularly. Okay, so we're busy with our booklet. So I should stop talking so you can work. So remember, use your booklet if you want to work online. Otherwise, you can just work offline. If you want to watch some of the videos, so basically video 1, the revision video is what we're doing today. So we are on lesson 3. It should have opened. Quickly edit it. Right, oh my goodness, I said it for. go open now. So let me change this. Okay, it's gonna open now. Okay, right, that's it. So, we're doing page. So yesterday you started, and you should be done with exercise 1 and 2. If you're not done, you've got some time now. And then today, all I want you to do is on page 3. I'm sorry, on page 6, you're starting with exercise 2. All you have to do, you don't have a lot of time, is just 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and then you're going to read about Starbucks. And then I'm using Starbucks because they've got such nice products that explain the marketing looks quite well to you. Okay. And then when we come back after the minutes and we will continue with the rest of the video. So that's all we have to do today. Nice and easy, eh? So finish if you haven't finished exercise 2. You quickly do these ones, and then we will Starbucks case study. If you're done with all of that, go on to the news site and read some about, click on some of those articles that you can expand your knowledge. Then you'll delight it later. Good. Good. Okay, let's start. Let's start doing that. Was the word search difficult?
No, I
Yeah, I struggled. I made it and I struggled with it. Then remember to keep it very silent because we count for marks. Is the marks better today? You see, you see it.
No.
We're doing this today. So if you're working online and you're struggling with the word search, what you can do is you can just put the answers next to the definitions that I gave you. And then you can see if you can find the word, but if you can't indicate it, it's okay, we'll just use the answers there. Because I made it an image, which makes it hard for you to read it online. Okay, guys, that's time. Such a quick lesson. So this was EMS for the week. I think what I've seen, all of you are on par, so you're not behind. You don't have any EMS homework at all, and then over midterm, you can have a really, really good break. No schoolwork, just relaxing, watching TV, social distancing, all those types of things. It's been busy, eh? Yeah. And you would have seen your exam timetable yesterday. Did you get it? Yeah, you don't have any EMS, so I'm not sure if you're going to have a slot. Okay, and please work on your businesses. Let those brains tick. What are you going to do? What can you sell? Don't think big, think small. Just want to make a few bucks. There you go.
If I haven't finished this, I'll finish it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What lesson do you have now? Oh, okay. This clock is early. Come on, please.
Minutes and seconds. That's the constant yesterday.
Remember, when it's like an email, look it out of your bag, you need it right there.
And I think what is why I change your location and to do it.
No, no, no. I saw you. How are you, sir? Are you in here now? Matt? You guys are Matt now?
Is this accelerated math? Which one? Accelerated math.
Oh, okay. I'm learning all these new terms, eh? Alright.
But if it says in your time over the weekend. Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to start a law. I don't know if possible to get in.
Oh.
Oh, here it is. I've got it there. So what happens is,
So this is. Okay, two choices.
yeah, there's one,
Enrichment.
yeah, enrichment, and then.
So we choose. Yeah. We'll find out. So I'm taking the enrichment, guys. Enrichment.
I just want to find out.
Wait a Accelerated math. Yeah. I think accelerated first. The last one. Yeah.
So,
You go to Mrs. Smith's car.
So what you can do, I don't know if you can use it.
I need to log in as myself.
Yeah,
Then,
you don't have to log in, just go to Chrome, yeah. And then you can log into your Gmail, it's just stuff in your Google Drive. Yeah, so you can just log in. One of the mouse is not working.
then, also you need to set up a Google Meet to invite our.
They're already invited, so it should be working.
Okay.
You can just, I just wanna remove myself. Okay, but there you can just sign in. And then here's all of this, so they all here. Okay, there you go. This is possible. This happened to me. So the screen guy says, please go to. And then when the computer like freeze,
Oh,
when they want you to sign in. But this is your profile that you use. And then if it dies, enjoy it.
okay, thanks.
You just have to spray the mouse.
Okay,
If you want.
okay.
Oh, we want to thank you.
Okay, right, okay. Yeah. Then it's
Well, it didn't set my Gmail, so nobody can go up to my profile. So if I close it, I should be up.
log on.
Okay. Thanks. It worked really well.